welcome to Virtual Vegfest Live, a very special edition because we have Dr. T. Colin Campbell with us today. And I just wanted to say thank you to Total Body Lab for sponsoring our live talks this month. And if you like prizes, we do actually give away prizes. Some people don't believe that it's real. It's real. And you can you can go to virtualvegfestlive.com and you can go to the contest tab and then you can enter to win one of our prizes that come from places like Terra Seed and Hodo Foods, Orgain and Veggie, Trupo Treats if you're a fan of chocolate, Bernie Wild, Kathy Hester, Total Body Lab, and Cinnaholic. I think those are all our prizes that we have to give to you just by going to our wish pond. So go do that. And of course, if you're into YouTube or if you're even not, please go and subscribe to Virtual Vegan Stew. I'll go that way, and Virtual Vegfest, and help us grow our sphere. Anything else? If you have any questions or comments, I see that people are in there happy to be here. Prizes are real. Thanks, Katya. There we go. Yes, because Katya is one of the people donating prizes to our monthly prize packs, which is awesome. And let's see. Hi, Walter. And hi, Valerie. Glad that you're here. And anyone else that is watching anywhere in social media land. So let me go. We were having some tech issues. So hopefully I'm going to work on them while we go live. But let's say, hey, Dr. Campbell.
Hello. Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, except I can't get my screen up there.
Oh, I think we're all good. Were you able to send me that file?
Yeah, it just said it's too large to send. That's another hit. Now I got to go back and take it apart.
Okay. Well, while we're doing that, we can chat for a little bit. And I know that you can talk, and I know that you can also take questions if we don't end up doing like a full-on talk. So Mandy's excited to be here. So hi, Mandy. Thanks for joining us. If you click on the comments tab on your screen, you'll be able to see all the comments, Dr. Campbell. And so
I'm sorry about this.
You're fine. You're now in Rochester, New York.
Yes, I am.
What made you decide on Rochester? Because we miss you here in Raleigh-Durham.
Well, I have been at Ithaca, Cornell University, all these years, and this is about an hour and a half north of that. We've got two sons here and family with grandchildren. And so we closed the house down and just sort of downsized. That's what it was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I'm so sorry here that we're not able to get this going. I had a nice set of slides. I was anxious to share it with you.
Well, hopefully, as we're going, you might be able to get them over to me so I can share them on my side. But we can't open it up to anybody that has any questions because they have you here. So they can, and then of course I know you can talk. So let's go a different direction to start. So Nelson has a new movie.
Yes, he does.
Let's kind of plug Nelson for a few minutes because that's pretty awesome. Of course, he's fundraising to help build back plant. I'm going like plant. Oh my god, there's so many plant things now. Plant Pure Nation. I was going to say plant-based. Never goes in my head. So Plant Pure Nation. And are you in the movie?
Pardon?
Are you in the new movie?
Yeah, he's got me someplace in there. Yes, definitely.
Well, that's awesome.
Can you still see me, or what do you see on the screen?
I see you on the screen.
Okay, because I have my slides up here and I could talk through them, but I hate that's the awkward way to do it. Yeah, where I'm in the new film, yes. Do you know what that film is about?
I read the email from Nelson, but tell everyone what it's about because I think that's really cool because it happens locally to me. I know that it happens in the Triad in Greensboro, right?
That's correct. Yes. One of the issues concerning this adoption of this diet, if you will, if I can say it that way, really has to do with the fact that if you take a group of people and put them on a so-called jumpstart kind of program, let's do this for 10 days or so. What happens, people can do it, especially if they have health problems, and you'll see great benefits. That's pretty common. But nonetheless, after it's all done, they walk away, only about 10% stay with it. I'm talking about people who've never did this before, okay? So they don't stay with it, and that's been a puzzle. How to get people on it and stay with it. So what he did, he put them on, I forget what it was, 9, 10 days, something like that. They all did it. It was a small group. Then he went back later, and about 6 months later, and asked them if they were still doing it. And he kind of found out that no, a couple of them did, but some didn't. And they told their reasons. Usually personal reasons, one kind or another, just too hard, whatever. And so it didn't really completely resolve the problem. But later, he did have some information that they really wanted to stay with it. Just situation at home wasn't all that great. Then I have Italian friends I've been lecturing in Italy for, close to 10 years. They have, in fact, had a great program over there. And what they found doing the same thing was that if they took a group of people and they asked them, would you like to do this for 9 days? And so he got nine people to join. That's fine. That's good and dandy. Then at the end of the 9 days, he asked them, would you like to do another 15 days? That was kind of interesting because at that point in time, they're all feeling pretty good. We'll do it. And all 9 went for another 15 days. At the end of that period, they asked them again, hey, how about doing another 15 days? Kind of sneaking up on them. After doing that 4 times, now we're at the about 60 days or so, about 2 months. At that point in time, every single person stayed with it, which really demonstrated a really important point. Really, to get into this diet for people who are not accustomed to it, to get into the diet, one of the things that has to happen, their taste preferences have to change. Of course, that's pretty common sense, and a lot of people know that, but they hadn't really been told before. So what it demonstrates, in fact, if people stay on it rigorously for, let's say, a couple of months, maybe 1 month is enough for a lot of people, but let's say at least in 2 months, and when the taste preferences change, they are there. And that was kind of exciting. 100% stayed there. And whereas in the beginning, as I say, only about 10%, if they had stopped at 9 days, only about 10% stayed there. And so every time they were asked, would like to do it again, they're feeling good. And so the mind has changed. That's what the film was leading to. It wasn't demonstrating that point necessarily, but I just added my little bit to it to talk about this question.
That's awesome. I'm super excited. I should reach out to Nelson and have him on to talk about it. That'd be really cool. I mean, as you know, he's in my community. He lives maybe 50 minutes from my house. So,
oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah. So that's really cool. Well, that makes me happy. So remember, everyone, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we address them. But I can definitely open the floor to Dr. Campbell. I know he can talk. I know he can talk about pretty much anything. If you wanted to talk about something specific, don't be shy. Type away and let us know.
I really hate not having my slides. That's a very awkward way, but anyhow, we'll try to do what we can. Let me put something else on here.
Do you have it in a Google Drive that you can share with me?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the slides in a Google Drive that you can share with me?
Well, I guess the slide's up right here now. I'm not sure it's Google Drive. It says your browser has blocked your screen.
Yeah,
click the screen icon in your address bar to allow access.
That's it. There's a little icon in your bar that should allow you to let it go.
And what bar are they talking about?
They're talking about the one, how you type in www. It's up there on your screen. There should be a little pop-up or something red or in there that you have to click to allow it to do the pop-ups from StreamYard.
Click the screen icon in your address bar. Okay, I'll do that. It says use the camera. Okay, well, I'm so sorry. This is terrible.
It's okay. We'll get there. But Mandy
I
does have a
had,
question.
I had been using the other platforms pretty much. I've only used StreamYard once or twice. I've just used it at least once, but I don't know about that. Well, in the address bar, there's blocking social media trackers, uh, verified by Cloudflare. Oh, this is terrible.
Well, Mandy has a question. It says, I struggle with giving up cheese. What are some good alternatives for those transitioning?
Is there someone you can call on StreamYard, or I can call?
It's not StreamYard, it's your computer. It's your browser. It's
Oh,
blocking it.
okay. Right now, it reverted to um, Firefox and go back to Chrome again.
You have to be in Chrome. It's definitely. Sorry, everyone. We're having tech issues. That's why we started late.
Okay, I'm in Chrome right now. What do I put in there?
Well, there should be a pop-up that's in that address bar that's allowing you that will allow pop-ups in your browser. I wish I could be there to do it, but I
Okay,
can't.
yeah, I see a pop-up and it's got anything but StreamYard. Doesn't have StreamYard.
It's just allowing pop-ups.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I can't help without seeing it because I don't know what you're seeing on your computer.
You know, if I could call you on my phone, do FaceTime, can you see it that way?
We can. We are live. The easiest way might be that if you can drop that file into a Google Drive and share that drive with me, and then I can grab it and share it. That probably would be the easiest way.
Tell
While
me
you're
what to
doing
do.
that,
I said, tell me what to do again.
if you go into like your Google Drive and you share the file there, because it's too big to share in an email.
Well, I got Google. Um, I got Chrome open.
Because you
Just
you have do you have a Gmail account?
yes, I
Anyone
do.
outside of? Yeah, that would be if you go into your Drive, your Gmail account. Hi, Florence. Glad you're here. Yes, lots of people outside of Florida are on. We're in North Carolina, and Dr. Campbell's in New York. And Mandy, if you want to say where you're from, and I know Katya is here in North Carolina as well. And I don't know where Valerie is.
I
I
don't
know.
know how. Yeah, I don't know how to do what you're telling me to do.
Yeah, I don't believe that we're going to get the slides to work if we can't get your street your oh, Mandy's in Georgia. I know Chris is watching from Georgia. I don't believe we're going to be able to get that to work without your browser allowing you to share in this platform and you're being able to do that.
Well, I know right now I have, StreamYard and Chrome and StreamYard open. Are you? They're still there?
I'm still here. We're listening to you.
Okay, now we got StreamYard and it keeps bouncing back to Firefox for some reason.
It might be in Firefox for I'm actually not sure why it jumps back to Firefox. And Florence, we tried to email the file. Oh, I just lost Dr. Campbell. He'll be back. I tried to email. He can't email the file because it's too big. And this is why we started late, because it couldn't get on his side the presenting to work because his browser is not allowing him to have the pop-up. Oh, Valerie's from Nashville. Hey, Valerie. Thanks for coming in from Nashville. So he will be back because he knows how to get back in here And this is the joy of going live. So, as we'll do a commercial, which is what I do until someone pops back in. We have 8 festivals this year, and they are in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Sarasota, Florida, Greenville, North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. Hey, Walter's in Nashville too. So there's a Georgia, which is Atlanta. Hey, Cindy from Florida. I think there's a tech on his side. There's a tech issue. When is Sarasota? The Sarasota one is May 21st at Nathan Benderson Park. It's called Vegan Fest Sarasota. And we're pretty excited because the location is amazing. And we're going to have a VIP experience. We're going to have education. We're going to have 2 levels of floors in the cute building that they have. And then obviously the outside, well, that's going to be really cool. And it's got that water next to it where you can watch the birds doing their thing. I think that'll be very calming and very fun. So that's May. Then August is Georgia, which is in Atlanta at a new location at the Atlanta Expo North, which we're yay happy about. And then Asheville, North Carolina, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. And of course, we have a vegan mac and cheese cook-off on March 19th. And here is almost Dr. Campbell. He has to collect his mic and his camera, and then I can put him back on the screen. So that's our year. And thank you. Sounds great. Thank you, Cindy. And I'm kind of hoping to do other vegan mac and cheese cook-offs. Like I'm looking to do one in Knoxville, Tennessee, with supporting Cows Come Home. And then I'd like to do one in Atlanta. So Chris, let me know that. I'd like to do one in Atlanta. And I don't know where else. Well, who else wants it? They're really cute. They're really fun. And if you like mac and cheese, it's even better. So I need him to connect his. You know what this might be, actually? No, he needs to connect his camera and his mic. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear him or see him. So it's like, how long can I talk for? If you know me, I'm actually introverted, but I do like going live, and I do like emceeing, and I do like filling space when I need to, but how much space can I fill? So once again, if you're late to the party, there we go. Now I can add him. You're back.
I'm back, but the problem is every time I have it on Chrome, I have it open, it reverts to Firefox.
Yeah, I don't know why. Is the file in Firefox?
I don't know. I don't know what you mean by file in the Firefox.
Is the file that you're trying to share in the browser, in the Firefox browser? Or is it in PowerPoint? Is it in Keynote? Like, where's the file itself? It's in Keynote? Okay.
So if I just put that in I'm afraid of more thumbs than I am anything else at the moment.
Try to think of any other way that you can get me that file.
This is very irritating.
Technology is wonderful, and technology is absolutely frustrating at the same time.
Yes, it's very annoying, to say the least. They keep changing things all the time. You use something, and then an update changes things.
It does.
We spend more time trying to work with the technicalities of it than actually doing the work. So you see me. I don't know what to do now.
Well,
is anybody on the screen other than the 2 of us?
Oh yeah. There's people watching. There's people been flowing in and out too. Yeah, Mandy has a question for you. Mandy said that she struggles with giving up cheese. And what are some good alternatives for those transitioning?
He's probably struggling to get what?
To give up cheese. And was
Oh,
wondering if there are some good alternatives for transitioning.
you said, did you say tea?
Cheese.
Cheese. Oh, that was the last thing that I had to give up myself. So I know that problem personally. Um, and I don't know what to do except that my wife was nagging me to go away, don't do that. I don't know what was the reason. I mean, I got off of it, and that was it.
How long ago was that?
But there's a substitute. That's use the yeast. What do you call it? The yeast extractor.
The nutritional yeast.
Great, yeah, right. Nutritional yeast, right. That's a pretty nice substitute. One of the best.
Right, because you wouldn't really recommend, because if you're going SOS, no salt, no oil, no sugar, you wouldn't really recommend the processed vegan cheeses that they sell on the market, right?
That's right. At least I leave that to my wife, and I will answer for her. No, she doesn't use that. She does not to.
Right. And that you'll make stuff out of cashews and seeds.
Correct. Correct.
Right. Not using oil. So everyone knows this Campbell's fall along the lines of a limited oil, limited sugar, whole foods, plant-based. That's what Dr. Campbell has taught and teaches, and where to get your protein and stuff like that. So when it comes to, I lost him again. So that's what he teaches in regards to, he wouldn't promote the Violife and the cheeses that are out there in the packages. However, they are options for people, especially newly transitioning people, to come into veganism or whole food plant-based diets, or just a plant-based diet, is to, someone's like, I don't want to give up my pizza, especially people from New York who are like, oh, pizza. Well, Violife makes a fantastic vegan mozzarella that you can, go buy and use. As you transition and as you add more health into your diet, you can go away from that. Use nutritional yeast, use seeds, use cashews, use different nuts to make cheeses out of nutritional yeast and water and those cashews. Blend them up, add seasonings, and you have an amazing cheese sauce. You can put it on the stove and make it thicker. You can use some organic cornstarch or arrowroot and make it thicker and pour that over whatever you want. And there's no thing processed in there. It's all whole foods. There we go. I partially answered for you as you're back. So Valerie said, nobody will miss the slides much. Would love to just hear him talk about what he has on his slides, and do not worry about us not seeing the slides. It's really okay. So don't worry about your slides. They really want to hear you talk. And then let's see. Walter says, I've mainly eaten cheese for cheap protein, but vegan cheese is low protein, so not a proper analog yet. Miyoko's is halfway there, but I want at least 6 grams of protein per ounce. That's a good point. Daya, I noticed the other day, has 0 protein in it. And Valerie said, Chow makes a good cheese slice too. Yes, they do. That's another one. And Katya, and potatoes with carrots, Cindy. Yes, for a cheese sauce. That's amazing. China study question from her friend who just got back from China, from Katya. They eat so much fried food. How is China study helpful if they have so much oil? Even for vegans, that should be bad for heart. You see that on the screen?
No, I don't. Oh, wait, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Now, it's an interesting question. It's fairly easily answered compared at least to what we found in China. Our study in China was done in 1983, in the spring of 84, when fat intake from that part of China, rural China, essentially was way, way down. It was only 14% of total calories. For example, compared to here, is about 35 to 40. I mean, 14 versus 35. So, that population we studied, their big population, in a total of 130 villages around the country, they were eating almost no animal food, very small amounts. And so that's the way it was. In the cities, they were eating more, but in the countryside, they were not. And just since that time, in the early 1980s until now, there's been major changes in China. they have come to realize in the last 10, 20 years or so, they wanted animal protein. And so the consumption of protein really went up quite fast. The only limitation was they to getting access to it, either producing it on farms or getting it from someplace. Now they really pushed that up a lot. I've just 3 times in the last 3 years I've been the principal speaker in their lifestyle medicine conference, and so they've kind of followed along with me. I've followed along with them, and the diet in China has really changed a lot. And one fellow who he's a fairly successful businessman. He actually wanted me to be his mentor, as he's walking through this. And he told me that he went to the countryside during the last New Year's thing. The Chinese New Year was a big deal. So he went back with his family, and he said they went there and they had 10 entrees for the family dinner. Every single one was meat. In other words, they've come to believe, as some of the Chinese authorities told me many years ago, we'd like to increase our protein intake. And so they made a recommendation higher for protein intake than even we do. I said, why do you want to do that? This is about 1988, I guess it was. And they told me because the United States is a very affluent, rich country. You got to where you are because of the kind of food you had. And I was trying to tell them, I said, no, that's not really so. But they were so bent on it, and they wanted to get that so that when the Olympics came up, their athletes could perform better. I mean, the whole dialect had occurred that they thought that more protein meant more success, more affluence, better athletes, and so forth and so on. And so China did host the Olympics then in about 2014, I think it was, or 2012. And that's really what drove it. But once they got into the idea of eating meat, it really caught on. And especially the dairy industry in New Zealand and the dairy industry in the United States really had a big say in that. And so that's why people are. They have come to believe in protein so much, and that meant basically animal protein. This is the number one thing that society can do as they begin transitioning to a more affluent, richer country. And so now they're eating a lot of protein. So, to answer that question is almost impossible. It's a different society.
Are they seeing an increase in diseases like we have?
Yes. The one set of data we have on that point is a big city in northern China called Shenzhen, and that their fat intake, for example, indicative of the diet, had increased dramatically in a fairly short period of time. And colon cancer was up, breast cancer was up, and so forth. That's unofficial data. I haven't seen the actual data, but that's what my colleagues were telling me. Yes, it's things are changing. The big thing that's changed in China, though, disease-wise, is diabetes. Because in the case of diabetes, not only is that a product of eating the wrong food, but in this case, you're particularly eating sort of what we call processed foods, if you will, a lot of sugar and fat, cookies and cakes, et cetera, But in any case, yes, it's gone up a lot.
It's so interesting that countries that had healthy diets, or eat a lot of quinoa, eat a lot of rice, eat these staple foods, and that's where their whole history is. It's based on those staple foods. But they look at the wealthier countries, and they see what we're eating, and they go, well, eating a big steak is wealth, and they want to have wealth. And even though they've got health and longevity in their lives because of how they're eating, they don't necessarily realize. I don't know if you just look at our country, you see the way we eat is killing us. But the symbolism of what we're eating is what poorer countries look towards as they want to aspire to. And that ends up essentially killing you early.
Yes, that's true. Actually, I'm writing another book, by the way. I'm halfway through, more or less just on this question. Namely, it won't be as large as the other books, but nevertheless, the question I've been wrestling with for decades, I could say now, is why has it been taking so long to sell the idea of nutrition, a proper kind of nutrition, of course. And I say that's whole food plant based. And so it's an interesting question, and I've been really getting into it because there's scientific issues that people don't understand, and these scientific impressions, issues, if you will, is traced back a long ways in history. So one can see, for example, over let's say 100, 150 years or so, the kind of changes that have occurred in our case that's driven by certain philosophies, driven by the access to money to the marketplace, and so forth. And so, yeah, it's a really interesting question, that can be considered from the philosophic point of view, the historical point of view, the political point of view, economic point of view. But in the case of science, it's been slow. And I've been really disappointed that, quite frankly, that science is even getting worse with the passage of time. Instead of talking about investigating questions and trying to get answers, a very logical way with integrity, instead it's driven in large measure by what people want to eat, and they want to believe, they want to believe whatever is positive about their own diet. And so it's a paradigm shift that occurs slowly over time. People just drift into this, and then the whole exercise becomes controlled by the corporate sector. It's a huge industry, as you know. We have a very, very big livestock industry in this country. And so we then end up controlling the government with that narrative. And so the USDA, the dietary guidelines, they actually developed dietary guidelines.
Oh, he's frozen. He's frozen on everyone's end, right? Not just mine? Make sure I'm not the one that's frozen. If someone could comment, let me know. Yep, he's sure. Thank you, Katya. Okay. Well, he'll be back in a second. I had one live that I did. Well, he was frozen, Cindy. That's why you couldn't hear him. I have one live that I did where my guest actually dropped out every 8 minutes. By like clockwork. His internet would just drop him out and he'd come back in. And we'd start up again. And then 8 minutes later, he would drop out and he'd come back in. So it's one of the reasons I like doing live is because, you just never know what's going to happen. And it's more forgiving. Well, please forgive us. But it's a great topic. So Katya, thank you for bringing it up without even knowing that he's writing a book on it. So we could segue into that, how poorer countries that are eating really healthy things like quinoa as their base staple in their diet, look to us and go, I want steak. I want those rich, fatty foods. Because if I eat those rich, fatty foods, they feel like they've grown in wealth and in society and in their position in society. One of the things Stephen and I talk about is actually that how are you ever going to create a vegan, whole food, plant-based planet when you've got people already eating that way who aspire to eat the way we eat, which is the philosophical part. That'll be really interesting to see how he goes at it in his book, which we'll find the answer to when it's going to come out, Mandy, when he comes back, because we know he knows how to do that. So, but this is something that we actually discussed in this household is how do you change people to continue eating things like quinoa and rice and beans and these really healthy staples that are also not expensive. And you can eliminate hunger on this planet by feeding people grains and beans and fruits and vegetables, which everyone should have access to. And they don't want that. They want something else. They want what we have. You're back.
Yeah, I don't understand. This is very frustrating. I would like to make a suggestion to you, and also to the people who are on board listening to this. Can we reschedule this somehow?
Of course.
Yeah, I don't want to. This is a question of my computer. Was it a question of my inexperience with this particular platform, or what? It's just not working. And I do have a slide I'd really like to share. It's a whole, what I'm working towards is that question you may have heard. I'm not sure you heard it. I'm really interested in discussing the question concerning how do we make progress in this area of getting the public informed about nutrition. And I'm talking about a whole food plant-based diet. That's, as you know, is a sharp contrast to what we tend to do. And there's all kinds of systemic issues that are involved, whether it's politics, economics, science, or whatever. And so I've had experience in quite a few of those sectors, and I want to talk about it. And it requires a new definition of nutrition. It's not about individual nutrients. They're deciding how much of this and how much of that to do. It's also not about talking about this food or that food or something else. I have a very simple message that if we adopted it on the grounds that we understand it, it's really simple. Don't eat animal foods, period. We don't have any need for animal protein. Scientifically, I can establish that point beyond any doubt. That's number one. And number two, try to eat the foods in a whole food form as much as possible. That means vegetables in a whole food form. It's very simple. And then just don't add back a lot of salt, sugar, fat on top of it. That's in a nutshell, essentially. And I'd like to share that argument or that evidence for that particular point of view with your audience, because I'm really anxious to, of course, get feedback going along the way too. But it's a
I would
fascinating.
love to do that.
It's a fascinating story. It's very different from what is generally told. What I'm really troubled about is that in the vegetarian community, and I was going to share this, especially with this audience. I know all the people listening they're very dedicated. They want to do this. That's a given. But the fact is that the way vegetarianism has been presented, and especially the way veganism has been presented, it's not very scientific. That's a serious problem. And so I want to share how we can look at this together, so we can get scientists on board, as well as, let's say, the vegan community, as well as my own community, as well as the medical community. So I'm really be pleased to talk to your audience and get that straight
I'm
out.
more than happy to set it up so that we'll use Zoom instead of StreamYard. And so, because I know that'll work on your computer, and have you share that presentation. Do you know when your book is going to be released?
My what?
Your book. You know when it's going to be
Oh,
released?
yeah, I'm about 2/3 of the way through it, maybe half to 2/3. It's smaller. I'm going to say, what is this, January? I'm going to say by March at the latest. It should, maybe April, May. Depends on publisher in that case.
Right.
But
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, they're actually the publisher as well. So.
Oh, good. Oh, it sounds amazing. And one thing that Katya shared is that, peasants have been healthier throughout the years because the rich would eat only meat and have fatty liver disease and die early, and the poor would eat veggies and do a lot of physical labor, walk, etc. Which is
that's true.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Means taking a step back to where we once were, if you will, as far as our eating habits are concerned.
There was a picture posted on Facebook like a few years ago, somewhere in the last 5 years or so, and it was a picture of old time New York City, Manhattan, and it was it was obviously still a picture, black and white, of people walking around the city, and somebody said, "What looks different about this picture?" Outside of the fact that it's obviously a horse and buggy, I think there were cars in it, and the thing that the person noted is that everyone in the picture was thin. There was nobody overweight in the picture, which is which is very interesting because New York City is a walking city, like London's a walking city, and you typically transportation wise, I don't think there was many trains back then, but people were physically getting up and walking out of their homes to walk to where they needed to go, which we've definitely gotten away from, as time went on.
That's so true. As what you know, and everyone else more or less knows, food, the right kind of food, and exercise kind of work together. They triangulate to the same endpoint. And so if you're eating really good food, the right kind of food, getting exercise along with it, it works out pretty well for most people. And that's another sort of interesting story. If people change their diet to really this good diet and they get used to it, then the first thing they want to do, they do want to exercise more, which kind of adds to the equation. Conversely, if people are into exercising, that once they get into it and they start feeling better, they lose some weight, then they want to know what kind of food should I be eating. So the idea sort of comes from two directions, and the interesting facet of it is that exercise and food together really does, create really good health.
Exactly. Well, does anyone have any other questions? Because we'll definitely reschedule this. I like that this was a Q&A. I like that we were able to kind of talk with you. And then next time you can talk to us, which will be fantastic. So we get sessions of Dr. Campbell. Session number 1, get to know him a little bit. Session number 2, you tell us what we need to know. I think that'd be fantastic. And we'll work on that. Once we stop going live, we'll figure out a date that will fit in, and we'll get that on the books and get everyone invited. So does anyone else have any other questions? If you don't, I'm going to say thank you for joining us and being a part of this, and follow our social media to know when the next date will be, and we'll definitely post that. Oh, a cookbook. Well, I think a cookbook would be great. Well, there is a cookbook. Kim Campbell has, 3 now? She's a brand new one coming out. Yep. So just look up Kim Campbell. She's written the recipes that you want to eat based on how the Campbells, the whole food, plant-based, SOS, the whole thing. Kim Campbell, she has a brand new one out right now. And one question for you is, what are your favorite topics?
My favorite topics?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nutrition and food, let's say, for one thing. But on the other hand, I do like political discussions, if you will. I really detest the kind of discussion we're now having in the country. It's too tense, too polarized, and so forth. But I do like to talk about history and, what kind of government I think we should have, and so forth and so on. I was actually spent some time actually representing the entire biomedical research community to Congress. This is back in the 80s. And so I really took a deep dive, if you will, into the political affairs, and sort of got to know where the stumbling blocks are and, so forth. So, yeah, I like political topics, except, as I say right now, it's not very much fun.
But I also know you love your family and your grandkids, and you're incredibly proud of them.
Yeah, we've got 11 grandchildren, 5 grown children, and spouses, obviously. And so, a lot of them are involved in this. And I think there's 25 of us now. And so we all eat this way, 100%. And I give a lot of credit to my wife, actually. We've been married for just over 60 years. And she has been my backbone in many ways. She told me to write to China today because I was complaining about the difficulties in my own community. And she said, stop complaining. She says, go out and write a book for the public. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome that she's getting a lot of that credit. I mean, you're a team. You've been a team for a long time.
Yeah.
And you raised some great kids, and I know you've got great grandkids. So,
as everyone probably knows, I'm from the farm. I was milking cows. That's it. I was a typical farm boy. Fishing, hunting, and all of that. And when I went away to school, thanks to the assistance of some really good people, I actually did my doctoral work on promoting the consumption of more animal protein. So I came from that community. And so for me, this journey has been all about science, really. Just trying to look at the facts. And so.
And we wish that more people would listen to the facts. And interesting, Mandy asked if next time your wife could come on to say hello.
Yeah, she's not here in the house at the moment, but she just went to watch our favorite football team, Buffalo Bills, right now.
Yep.
Yeah, that whole story about DeMar Hamlin. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of a local story.
Oh yeah. I know Dr. Milton Mills has been posting about what actually was happening with him medically to help people understand what they did on the field, why he was in the when he was in the cooling process, right? And then they had to warm him up, and it takes a little bit of time because they needed the body to heal, and he was explaining that to people that understand like why he was, why they were doing what they were doing to help him to get to the point where obviously now he's speaking and he's seems to have all his senses and the ability to move, which is amazing with,
Right.
kind of not being alive for like 8 minutes. So,
Yeah, it's quite a story. You probably didn't hear it. Maybe some of the folks on this podcast here, if you will, may not know this, but I had about half an hour to listen to the beginning of the game with Buffalo before I came on this line here. And the most amazing thing happened. They were celebrating DeMar Hamlin, on the big screen and everything else, and people wearing his number and so forth. So the kickoff went from New England, who's our big, uh, you know, partner, if you will, came to the Buffalo Bills. The guy ran it back 100 yards for a touchdown. The opening play, I think this is the first time this year that on an opening kickoff, the Buffalo team just really went wild.
that's amazing. I'm sure he's watching, from his
uh,
hospital bed. I'm sure he's watching.
are you sure? I haven't heard.
I would hope so. I would hope that, I mean, since
Yeah,
he's
sure.
up and he was able to FaceTime with them, I hope he's watching the game. I mean, I guess he has a heart issue, so being excited might not be the best thing, but hopefully they're letting him watch his team, and that's just amazing.
Can I say one more thing, and then we'll close it down? I'll come back when you reschedule. But one
Yeah.
more thing I would like to say, during the last 2 years now, 3 years essentially, uh, the pandemic has been quite a piece of work, as we all know, and a lot of contention, a lot of difficulty. And when that first came out, I had worked with, in my research, worked with a serious virus, 30 years ago. So there's a lot of comparability between that virus and this one. The virus we're working with causes cancer. It's the fifth leading cause of death in the world. But in any case, when we were doing that in China with nearly 9,000 people, we measured. We actually measured the amount of viral antigen, that's the active virus, in these people. We also measured the amount of antibody to that virus in these people. Then we had a lot of information on their nutritional characteristics. We had information too on the rate of death. And when we got the data, I couldn't believe when I pulled it out because it hadn't yet quite published that part of it. And it turned out that people in China consuming animal food, very small amount, only about 10% of what we do, they were the ones that kept the active virus. They could not form the antibody. And they were the ones that got the disease and died. People consuming plant-based foods, kind of thing we know, like the whole that's what they're doing. The more plant foods they consume, they were the ones formed the antibody. So the plant eaters formed antibody. The animal food eaters did not. The animal food eaters died. The plant food people really had a far, far lower rate of liver cancer. It was really, truly amazing. And we had a data set that was huge. I pulled it all together. Collectively, it's the strongest data I've ever seen. Now published, like 375 papers or whatever. I know what really, this was really impressive. I sent it in for publication to two of the major journals in the world. I'd published there before. Do you know, this is the first time this ever happened. When I sent in the paper and suggested, this is actually December 2019, I suggested here was an opportunity to even consider the whole food plant-based diet, let's say for people getting a virus, because that's what it showed very clearly. And I sent it in. Two of those major journals wouldn't even review it. I never saw that in science ever before. And I've sat on editorial boards. I've been deeply involved in this process. Somebody was paying their way. And it's a story I want to tell going forward. And so it's really was very powerful that for the pandemic and even in coronavirus, I'm really quite confident. We have a lot of data that anyone who gets infected is not going to have anything. Diet's not going to have really anything to do with getting infected and testing positive. The diet has to do with how does our bodies respond. And of course, we're being infected with viruses all the time. It's been going on for a few million years. It really has to do with the question, how does our bodies respond? And that's really what our data showed. And they wouldn't publish it. Quite frankly, they don't want any alternative ideas, to the idea that we should have vaccines.
Yeah, a couple of suggestions from Valerie and Mandy. It's the meat industry, the meat and dairy industry that I guess got their tentacles into it's been a weird few years that science is no longer science. Science is debatable. Science it's weird things have happened in the world since 2019. And that might have just been the start of it. Like
Yeah,
who
do you know
got
what?
good.
No, what you said is absolutely correct. In my case, I've had a direct experience with that too, and I can tell you what happened in the United States. In academia, those of us in science, we have to earn it, but basically there's an opportunity for academic freedom. Okay? In that case, we have lifetime tenure. And then we're in a position to speak honestly. We don't have to worry about what somebody's going to say. We can speak honestly. I got my academic tenure, fortunately, when I was in my early 30s. So I've had it more than 50 years. It's one of the things that really gave me an opportunity to speak out on issues that otherwise wasn't possible. What happened, though, however, there's really good data on this. The American Association of University Professors provided the data. In 1980, when 70% of the faculty had tenure, 70%, by the time 2010 rolled around, that was the period in which it measured that it went from 70% to 30%. And only 9% in 2010 both had tenure and academic freedom, if you will. And so we were able to speak. That, in other words, academic freedom has almost disappeared from the American landscape. So we don't have now, I'm one of the few people in the country. I'm 88, I'm going on 89. I've had the opportunity of speaking out and enjoying the debate. That's the other part of it. We have fun, we can disagree and all that kind of stuff. That's great fun. We debate honestly, but it's been taken away. It's been taken away. And so that trend, I don't know to what extent that's really been existing in other countries, but for sure in the United States, what has happened since actually started in the 1970s, with the Nixon administration, they started taking control and denying people this opportunity. That's one of my big stories. I want to shout that to the world, because what's happened is that in 2010, during that study period, I don't say they're exactly associated, but I'm convinced they are. But nonetheless, in 2010, that's when the Supreme Court made a decision to pass the so-called Citizens United Supreme Court decision, 5-4 decision. And Citizens United was a decision enabling corporate bodies, corporations, if you will, to put more money into elections. So elections since 2010 have been largely bought and sold. I'm being pretty candid and nasty, I guess, to some people, but that's really what's happened. Now when people run for office, it's who's going to raise the most money to win. And that's my take on it. I can't stand it. You asked me before, one of my interests, I've really had an interest in political affairs and how that relates to science, how that relates to medical practice. And that's one heck of a story. I'm greatly annoyed, to say the least.
Well, it's really scary because an educated populace is not good for people who want to control people.
Exactly. It's exactly what happened. You're saying it. I think you already knew this very well. Yeah.
We're aligned here. I know not everyone who watches is aligned here, but it's starting now in local communities, with school boards, with parents. You want to make it so it can't teach certain things or teach in certain ways. And if you don't educate, then you have a dumb populace. And a dumb populace is easily controlled. And when you're easily controlled, then we lose democracy. We end up in some other way of living, which I'm pretty sure that most people here would not want to live in. And I don't think they understand that, what it would
So,
be like. And I don't really want to get there for them to have to learn, because I'm not part of that dumb populace. So, because I will speak up and I will say things, and I do say things. So, yeah, this is an incredibly interesting conversation. So I mean, there's been a lot of comments, and let me see what this one. I found out that USDA works for Tyson, not the American people. So it seems a lot of people who are right now in the chat totally are aligned with what we're saying. And there's that we can talk about for hours. But science isn't debatable. Science has become debatable, and where a lack of education of the populace is going to lead to what's already happening. Attacking the Capitol, saying elections aren't real, saying you won when you didn't win, saying like really, just telling people, gaslighting people to the point where they believe things that aren't true. And you can't show them proof because nothing is real. It doesn't matter that you say that a whole foods plant-based diet is the best thing on the planet for the planet, the animals, and for your health. Because nothing in writing will ever convince people that it's real, because nothing's real anymore.
yep.
It's crazy.
By the way, I just saw somebody had put a thing up there in chat, and then part of it disappeared and said something about Tyson. I think they're talking about Neil Tyson.
I think they're talking about the USDA works for Tyson. I think they're actually talking about the Tyson chicken.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know. It's the company. Yeah.
Yeah, the company.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're talking about.
Yeah, USDA is essentially nothing more than an extension of farming. And my coming from the farm, I was a family farm. I loved the farm, and a very different life. But then gradually it changed pretty fast. Not even hardly gradually. It went pretty fast over to the factory farm business, which is an altogether different world. It's a different planet compared to family farming, and it's very serious because they become very powerful, and so they in turn then really can put their hands in the electoral process too. They have a very big voice, and yes, corporate minded, but it's very, very sad.
Yeah, like I said, we could totally talk about that for a long time. So there's one thing that I would go backwards, as Valerie asked. She said, wondered if vegans are not dying from COVID as much.
Well, I have to say this here, but I want to preface my comments, by the way. I didn't finish off my few words before. So when the pandemic came, and they're scaring the people, everybody across the country as much as they can, I had already been doing work in the viral area for quite a bit, and I knew enough about it. I'm not an immunologist, but I certainly know that side of the thing. My wife and I did not get vaccinated because I did not think it would work. There's too many ifs, ands, and buts. That was from my own experience for the 30 years before that. And so we caught a lot of nonsense from people. Very difficult even for our families because of our age. We're the first ones who should have been getting shots. We didn't. Okay, so we went through that for almost 3 years, feeling well. We both got, this is now about 2 months ago, we got infected with the virus. We got COVID. Neither one of us had a fever. Neither one of us had nausea. Neither one of us had, the only thing that happened was that we got a bit sleepy. We had some extra sleep for me for about 6 days. my wife for about 8 days. And we sailed through it. And that was always my proposition. This was a fantastic time to alert the world to the fact that viral infections can behave the same way as do degenerative disease problems. In other words, heart disease can be reversed. My friends Esselstyn and Ornish and so forth, they kind of put that out there. Diabetes can be reversed remarkably quickly. Chronic kidney disease can. Cancer, that was what started my career many years ago. We could turn cancer on and off. Anyhow, there's one formula that really speaks to the question concerning nutrition. It's the same formula, and it works across a whole lot. And the only one that has never been discussed very much is, of course, viral diseases. So when this came along, and then I got turned down, wouldn't even review it, and eventually I did publish in the European Commission journal. In fact, but I had spoken there at the commission before. So I don't know, it's a kind of a personal thing, but the fact of the matter is, there is unfortunately a very dark cloud over us as far as nutrition is concerned. And of course, they want to deny the fact that a plant-based, whole food kind of diet can have remarkable effects. And we have to live with this other conversation and this other control that's going on. It's ridiculous.
There's one caveat to what you're saying that I want people to really understand. The way you eat there's a lot of people that are vegan. There's a lot of people that are whole foods, plant-based. I do not believe they're eating as healthily as you and your family are. I've gone out to dinner with Kim and Nelson, right? I've seen them eat foods that are not whole. They're vegan, but they're not whole food plant-based. There was oil, there was salt, there was probably sugar. And I know that they say after they dine out, they don't feel good. They want to go home and eat their food. Because I'm not surprised based on how you're eating and what you're saying scientifically that you and your wife were okay after you got COVID. Thankfully, it's COVID now and not COVID 3 years ago, which was killing people. This version of COVID has not been killing people as much. So I think that helps too.
Yeah, but basically they're really all the same in regards to the effect, the generalized qualitative effect. There may be difference, of course, quantitatively in a sense, but viruses tend to do their work involving our immune system, more or less the same. I mean, everybody is serious virus, and I think the coronavirus can be classified as a fairly serious virus. But I can tell you, too, the hepatitis B virus is more serious. It's really been tough. It's been killing, 600 to 800,000 people a year for, 40 years. And so the viruses, tend to survive or not, as the case may be, in large measure because of the immune system, the health of the immune system. But there's other systems in our body, too, that also play a role. But nonetheless, what works on one kind of virus tends to work on another. And so some viruses may not be as robust, maybe as the coronavirus, one of the variants, as you referred to. But I think they're all responding the same way.
That is also incredibly interesting. So Mandy wanted to know what the title is of the publication. She'd love to read it.
Oh, gosh, I had it here. It's my publication. Yeah, I had it in the title, and that was one of the things I did. It caused a lot of consternation. Let me look at it real quick. I put on the end of the title. I want to read. I have to find it here. Where is it? And the title. Oh well, gosh darn it. Oh yeah, here. I can show you. I don't know where you can see that.
A nutritional link for COVID-19? ? That would be it.
That's it. And then in that paper, it had all the data that we had collected. 8,990 people. was a study where we measured, uh, antigen prevalence as well as antibody prevalence, as well as the risk of getting the disease, as well as the diets they were consuming. Really quite an amazing story that they turned out. As I say, it was the European Commission nutrition group that did it.
Yeah, so Blind Guy's Wife, Their Life. He's on YouTube. So true, the quality of dietary nutritional health varies so much that it's not so cut and dry as vegans fare better.
Well, just a second. Sorry for interrupting you, but part of the talk that I was going to be giving, I really dispute the vegan idea to a considerable extent. It's not very scientific, I have to tell you. And the reason being is that they have tended to rely not on science, but on a belief system, which is fair enough. I'm all for it. That's fine. So it has nothing to do with the ethical consideration. I'm all for that. That's not the issue. But as far as the science is concerned, do you know that vegans, vegetarians, and meat eaters, in the best study that's been done on this question, they all eat exactly, really precise, exactly the same amount of fat and the same amount of sugar. So what you referred to before has been documented in the best study of its kind out of a friend of mine at Oxford University in England. Unfortunately, vegans they're not eating very well. Yes, they're cutting down on animal protein for the most part. That's true. Vegetarians are not so much, but vegans are pretty strict about that. But when they turn around then eat fatty, salty, sugary foods, they're not replacing it with a whole foods that has the antioxidants and all that stuff in it. So they're going to suffer some. They're not home free just because they're vegan.
That's why I wanted people, the caveat part of, I know your diet is primo when it comes to what you're putting into your bodies. And I also know that most vegans are eating vegan fried chicken, vegan burgers, vegan
That's right.
whole food processed foods. Not whole food, processed foods. And I don't know how many fruits and vegetables they're eating, raw fruits and vegetables, cooked fruits and vegetables. I know they sauteing them with like vegan bacon and, butter and oils. I don't know. And it's great that you're saving the animals and it's great that you're saving the planet. You're not necessarily saving your health as well as you can be. It is better than eating fried chicken, but it's not that much better eating vegan fried chicken as eating vegan chicken. I'm non-vegan chicken, I should say. There's not too much. If you're eating a SAD diet, a standard American diet, is horrible for you. Eating a high junk food diet as a vegan is just as horrible for you as the SAD diet.
Yep, it is. That's true.
That's really cool. And Walter said, just to go backwards a little bit, he wishes vegan foods would get the subsidies that livestock farming does. I guess you could say corn does, but not for the reasons that we want it to. So, but this is an amazing discussion. Thank you. And clearly the next time is going to be even better because you'll have your talk, which is completely different than I think anyone's ever seen. And more about your book by the next time. It'll be closer to being finished. You'll be maybe 2/3 through by the time we talk again. And this is great. I learned more about you today than I already knew. So,
well, the talk I'll be giving is what I want to talk about is how to connect the vegan, vegetarian, if you will, community with the clinical community, that's medical doctors, right? With the community I've been part of, namely nutritional scientists, with also, the political forces and agencies that we have to live with. It's really possible. We seem to have these separate communities. We each have our own biases and our own sort of things like that. And it's almost like, here's a group over here, they say this, here's a new group, and so forth and so on. The message that I have now is so fundamental that it applies to all of them, completely. And it could really, I'm really confident it could change the world if we just changed our eating habits, if people really understood the science. And when I say that, I'm really talking about a different concept. of looking at nutrition differently than the way we do. We tend to look at one nutrient at a time. We look at this food, that food, and we argue about it. And there's some people out there now saying, I got all the facts, just read this, this, and this. It's a source of enormous confusion. What really at the bottom of this discussion, the most basic part of the discussion, really has to do with the science and the way things actually operate in the cells, in the bodies. It's like a symphony. It's a really incredible thing that has been voiced occasionally, maybe, but never quite with the modern science that I've had. So that's what I want to share with people. It really could. I think the China study, for example, just kind of tipped me off on that. I mean, I wanted science, and I think I forever have been science. But part of the science question is that a lot of people in the public don't really, understand all that science, if you will. But when I came out with the China study, I did not think at that time I was going to summarize my research. I did not think it would have much of an impact. And the publisher even was hoping if he could sell 8,000 copies or whatever, that he'd be happy, be home free, and that's what I was led to believe. Well, it turns out the China study has been translated to 50 foreign languages. It's been actually, I know I lost count, but it's at least 4 million copies have been sold. And it comes because, and I've spoken in more than 30 countries in person about this. It really occurs because if you look at the science the way I like to describe it, people say, wow, I didn't know that before. And it really does resonate, I think. I'm not saying to kind of, flag my book or highlight the book, but the fact of the matter is the information is, I would argue, is irrefutable.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a couple of comments before we go. Katya said, I've learned more too. Would love to connect more vegan curious people with nutritional science information to make their doubts on changing lifestyle go away. And Katya actually helps people get fit with Total Body Lab, which is sponsoring this talk. So you can definitely contact her. And Mandy said, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Looking forward to the next talk. Valerie, I'm on board with this task. I've already been working on it. I gave a new neighbor in Florida, who's well-respected oncologist, your China study book when she was interested in my vegan diet. Best way to do this is to teach by example. I feel more people are interested in what you're doing when they watch you and they see you, and then they go, how are you doing that? And you go, hey, here's how. And Valerie said it amazed me that she was not aware of the science next to me. So an oncologist wasn't aware of the science, which seems to be par for the course.
Yeah, it works. I've heard it, a few thousand times over. It really works. Including my wife, I guess you probably knew that. She, after we were mostly changed, not completely. She was diagnosed with advanced melanoma. That's a serious cancer, and they called it advanced. And so it had migrated and metastasized to her lymph glands. And so they wanted to take out her lymph gland basin. They wanted to put her on chemo. And she told them no. And the oncologist nearly freaked out and said, if you come back to me in 6 months' time, I won't be able to do anything for you. That was 18 years ago. And she's been fine.
That's amazing.
It's really amazing. And we don't have all the answers yet, of course. And there's some people who are sort of doing this right, they would argue, and probably are coming close to it. But, there's always so few exceptions. That's something we have to live with. But with the exceptions also comes a need, a demand, essentially. Go back into the drawing board and see if we can learn out why there are those exceptions. That's science. And when we can learn, why the exceptions may have occurred, then we refine our general ideas and get even better. But it's the effect is already now so prominent and so amazing on so many different degenerative diseases. And I would say viral diseases too. It's quite exciting.
And that kind of brings us back full circle to go how we started, which was with Nelson, is the fact that he figured out how to take people instead of doing a 10-day kickoff, he figured out what it was to help them to stick with the lifestyle and what that took. And that 10 days didn't work. So he went and figured out how to make it happen so that people didn't just feel good for 10 days, their numbers all changed, but to actually push them. That's the new movie. So I'm gonna go to Plan Pure Nation and follow that. You can follow Nelson Campbell. But it's a nice full circle to bring it all back to, everyday people and how to figure out what works and what will help them stick with this.
Yeah, the message is very
good.
I said the message is very simple. The complications are enormous. They're infinite. Whether we're talking about science or whether we're talking about infrastructure, whether we're talking about whatever. But the science is really, really simple. And the sooner we get away from talking about specifics, this food does this and this food does that and so forth and so on, that's the same kind of dialogue that occurs with doctors trying to find out a drug for every condition. So it's not a very good pathway. But anyway. And by the way, one thing I want to correct you on. Nelson did do the study, and he's going to be doing some more of that. But I was telling you also as an add-on to that, because he was looking very carefully. Why do people not, trying to adopt this? The add-on to that was my friends in Italy who wanted to carry that 9, 15, 15, 15, 15 kind of thing. I just find that whole idea really exciting.
Yes. Yeah. If you can figure out how to change the world, and save the world. It's really saving the world at this point. Your individual diet's great, your health great, but it's really, I go to Celeste Rao for this because he actually has a book coming out. I don't know if you know that, but Celeste Rao with Climate Healers has a book coming out, and it's about the pinky promise that he made his granddaughter, which is pretty exciting. And he's about climate, which people need to believe that climate change and is real and that we have to change because you've got grandkids. There won't be a planet for them.
I just had dinner with Celeste Rao not too long, just a couple of months ago. He's a great guy, really great guy.
Yes, he is. I'm a big fan. Well, cool. We could clearly talk for hours,
Yeah.
and then it'll just end up being a conversation with us and everyone watching. So yeah. I'm going to put you in the green room and say thank you and close this out, and then we'll talk in a moment. So don't go away. So we'll set up the next date. Here we go. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, for being a part of this and joining this Virtual Vegfest Live special edition with Dr. Campbell. We'll set up another one so we can do his talk. That one will be on Zoom so that he can share his screen and do what he wants to do. But I feel like this was a lot of fun. Your questions were fantastic. Your comments were fantastic. And thank you, Walter. Really appreciate your being here and from all over the country. So again, go to Virtual Vegfest and Vegan Stew on YouTube, follow and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, and go to virtualvegfestlive.com, hit the contest tab, enter a contest. We love giving you stuff, and we're on the fence if we're going to continue it. So go try to win prizes. We have like 9 to give away. Enter. You never know if you'll get that email from Callie saying, hey, give me your address. You've won a prize. Other than that, have a great rest of your Sunday and a great rest of whenever we see you again. Wednesday will be the Vegan Stew, so tune in at 7 p.m. and Fridays at 11:30. You can do face yoga with Tiffany. Thanks, everyone. Bye.